So welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Fourq 4 Questions, where I speak to top comedians about their life and motivation. And myself and Dave Thompson... Hello, Dave.
Hello. Hello, Tony.
Myself and Dave Thompson were here in a nebulous apartment in Antwerpen, Belgium, and we did a show last night at the Comedy Cellar, which was a good show, wasn't it?
Stand-up Antwerp.
Stand-up Antwerp, yeah. And it was in one of those kind of just perfect venues. It was like in the basement, in like almost like a beer cellar.
Yeah.
And everyone was kind of like packed in.
Yeah. And the laughter bounces off the brickwork.
And it's sweaty as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're hot and sweaty and just kind of like, just how you want it to be. It's kind of like how Edinburgh could be if every venue was full.
And there were no Scottish people.
Yeah, I didn't want to say that, but yeah, that we could arrange it. We could just move the Edinburgh Festival to Antwerp.
Yeah, yeah. I like Scottish people. Don't get me wrong.
I'm kind of nonchalant about the whole.
Yeah.
Half Scottish myself.
Are you really?
Yeah.
But you're half Mancunian and half Spanish, so how can you be half Scottish as well? That's greedy.
I'm just just a very ambitious guy. I always take too much on.
You're about three halves.
Even. I love it. So, Dave Thompson. Now, one of the things. It's a bit of an intro. Been doing comedy how many years now, Dave?
Oh my God! A week ago, yesterday was my 30th birthday as a stand-up comic. I'm sort of ashamed to admit it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you
30 years, 8 laughs.
A 0.3% laughter rate.
But I hope in the next 30 years to improve that.
Yeah.
I'm getting a lot of experience and
You're working your way up. No, that's good.
Listening to feedback from promoters.
So you got. So one of the things that people will that's known about you, Dave, is that you played Tinky Winky
in the Teletubbies.
In the Teletubbies.
Yeah.
That was incredible.
Yeah, that's the thing that people most know about.
And is that right? Because you bring a handbag onto a man bag onto the stage.
Well, yeah, I don't always do that, but I once did an interview for some small cable TV channel, and they wanted me to hold a red handbag.
Oh, right.
And that's the one they gave me, and I was just sort of hung on to it. So I just thought, use it if I'm going to use any bag to carry on the stage to take a couple of props on, why not a red handbag?
Why not a big red? And it's nice. It's nice.
Continue the motif.
That's it. And the motif carries on, and you don't even sort of when you did it the last couple of days, you didn't sort of go. You didn't explain why you brought on a big red handbag. You just
it's just subliminal.
Yeah. Some people had to kind of work out that there was a Teletubby, but then others didn't work that out. They just thought, that guy's got a big red handbag.
Yeah.
What are you going to do about it?
Exactly. Yeah. And a blue velvet suit, of course.
Yeah. Which does go really well.
Thank you. I had it made to measure in Goa. I've got 2.
Really?
Yeah, and I kept that one in Budapest for the last couple of years, and it came back from Budapest last week, and it's already in continental Europe again.
Your suit's more travelled than I am. That's very impressive.
Yes, and so is my material.
I love it. So, and the other thing that you might know Dave Thompson about is you've appeared in quite a lot of Harry Hill things as well. And
loads of stuff for Harry Hill, TV Burp, Stooge in his live tours. He's working on new material for a new live show at the moment, and I'm in that.
Oh, brilliant!
Playing the part of Ian the Caveman.
Are you going to be in like a
caveman costume? Yeah.
Beautiful. I literally can't wait to see that with a handbag.
No handbag involved on that.
No, you're going to go bagless.
Mm.
There was one other thing I wanted to before we launch into the questions.
Was it the Barclays TV commercial in 1986? Was that it?
That was I was 8 at the time, but it was very influential on me.
You're still out with them.
Have you?
No, I hope you have.
Yeah, no, I've gone with Lloyd's because you often I think for a lot of people that go to uni, it's their university account that you stick with.
Yeah, you stay. What about Golden Wonder Crisps? I was in that commercial in '87. Did you eat those?
Brilliant. What did you do in Golden Wonder Crisps?
I had to go to Spain. It was lovely. It was in the days when they had budgets, and we flew business class to Spain, and not far from Malaga actually.
Right.
In the Sierra Nevada.
Yeah.
And the highest village in Europe, I think. And it was called Matterhorn. I was like a young man with lederhosen. And there was a really fat northern guy called Johnny Bars, who was a great guy. He was like an old panto dame type guy.
Yeah.
And he was actually genuinely, I don't think he'd ever flown on a plane before, and he was genuinely saying, oh, it hasn't got an outside toilet. Thinking that nobody would have heard that joke about an aeroplane before. And he was like an older man with lederhosen.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to be done in Switzerland. It was supposed to look like in Switzerland. So what they did was they had a sheet of glass with the Matterhorn painted on top of the mountain that was behind us.
Oh, brilliant.
This was in the days before they had computers.
CGI and all that.
Yeah. And we had to do yodeling and stuff. And he burst a packet of crisps, and then there was the echo, something like that. It didn't get shown that much actually.
Didn't it? Wow. And then so that was, and then obviously they moved on to Lineker.
Yeah, he was Walker's, I think.
Oh, he was Walker's?
Yeah, because Bert Tyler Moore was in the Walker's Crisps a lot, adverts a lot. He was a comedian on the circuit years ago.
Look at that, Golden Wonder, amazing.
And he went on to present Gaytime TV. He came out as being gay and then got a job as a gay presenter on a gay programme.
Is that is that a digital channel, is it?
No, I think it was a cable channel.
Oh, right.
Years ago. Don't know what he does now, I've seen him for years.
He's probably still presenting, but just not getting aired.
Maybe.
Yeah. Get this.
Best of luck to him.
Best of luck to him. So, the 4 questions, right? let's crack on with those, Dave.
Okay.
Favourite memory of comedy?
Okay, well, I used to be regular compere at an arts centre in Wales, and my friend from college was the artistic director. And I turned up and stayed the night at his place the night before the gig. And because I was a regular compere, I had to sort of try and do as much different stuff. And I had this routine I used to do where I had a lycra leotard and tights, which was actually made for me when I appeared in Ben Elton's film Maybe Baby.
Brilliant.
I've been in 4 feature films and none of them have done anything for my career whatsoever. But in Maybe Baby I wore a purple lycra leotard and tights.
Wow.
And I had them, and so what I would do is I would be on stage wearing ordinary clothes and then say, but I feel that some sort of things I can't express through the medium of stand-up comedy, and I need to find some other way of expressing it. And I'd take my clothes off and reveal the leotard and tights. And then say I need to use the medium of postmodern dance. And I'd do a sort of postmodern dance to some piece of music by Bela Bartok, the Hungarian composer. Very fast-paced piano music, one of the hardest pieces to play, I think, ever written on the piano. And sometimes I'd then go on to use a stooge where I would start the dance, and then somebody in the audience would start saying, God, I can't believe this, God, this is, and they start getting louder and louder until people were being distracted by it. And then I'd stop and I'd say, excuse me, have you got some problem? And the person would say, yes, well, you have no concept of postmodern dance. This is not postmodern dance. And I would then say, well, if you think you can do better, you try. And they'd say, okay, walk to the stage, everyone would be a bit tense and what's going to happen is going to be fine. And then they'd take their clothes off to reveal an identical leotard.
Brilliant!
Well, when I say identical, it was actually red, and that was made for me by Stuart Lee in a show that he did, where I had leotard and
People
tights.
like putting you in lycra, don't they?
Well, yes, although it was originally my idea to have the lycra, because I did a degree in theatre at Dartington College of Arts, and there's a large postmodern dance element in the course, and I actually was once a professional postmodern dancer.
Oh my goodness!
For a short while, yeah. Anyway, the person would come to the stage taking off their clothes, revealing a leotard and tights, and there'd be the sort of like relief of, oh, thank God there's not going to be a fight. And then we'd do like a sort of a little send-up of postmodern dance, so we'd all sort of roll over each other and provide shells and go through each other's legs, and then we'd hold hands and bow at the end, and that would be the end of the bit. And I was staying at my friend's house, who was the artistic director of this art centre in Wales, and I said to him, would you want to do this? Would you want to be the stooge? Because everyone would think, oh God, the artistic director's heckling the act and or the compere. And he was saying, no, I just don't want to do that. Sorry, but I can't. I couldn't do it. And his wife used to do dance with people with special needs.
Right.
And because they were such lovely people, they had a guy with severe cerebral palsy who she was working with, and they had him in their house, and he was black in a wheelchair with severe cerebral palsy.
Wow.
And he was sitting around the table, and he sort of went, and he said, I want to do it. You know, well, to say no would have been discrimination.
Yes.
So I said yes.
That's against the law.
So of course he was dead into it, and we rehearsed the next afternoon, and then he puts himself in his wheelchair at the front of the audience, and then I'm doing the routine on the night. The place is full of over 100 people, and I start doing my dance, and he's in his wheelchair, so we're going. So I stop and I say, excuse me, do you have a problem? Of course, at which point the whole audience is, as tense as anything, being heckled by the one guy with severe cerebral palsy who's also black. And he sort of says, people didn't really understand that. I think I had to repeat after and say, so what you don't think it's postmodern dance? I'm doing a disservice to the concept of postmodern dance. Well, if you think you can do better, you try. And of course the whole audience just goes, oh! and then he starts getting towards the stage and trying to get on the stage. So I pull him up onto the stage, and of course he's not able to undress himself. So I then have to start undressing him, and I realise that I'm actually got this bloke who's on the floor, and I'm actually wearing lycra leotard tights, and I'm pulling his trousers off. I just think, my God, I didn't think he was going to be like this. And then so I pulled his trousers off and then pulled his top off, and he had the leotard and tights on. And then I sort of danced with him, which just basically meant sort of rolling over him and stuff. And I think that's my favourite comedy memory.
Oh, I bet. Because
it was inclusive.
It's totally inclusive. And also, I think, in terms of that, part of the concept of comedy is where one of the most delicious bits of comedy is where tension is created and then released really quickly, and that's a beautiful kind of cathartic moment. But that's like the most tense you can get. You ticked every box.
Yeah. Challenging people's perception of disabled people.
Yeah, and for them, because they put almost so much judgment on you, and then it was totally subverted, because then they were like, oh my goodness,
the relief was incredible.
Oh, that was incredible. Wow. That is fantastic. That could have also been your worst moment of comedy as well.
Well, yes.
Gone wrong.
Well, funny you should mention that, because the worst moment of comedy also involves. It was when these people I knew were putting on a night at the Commedia in Brighton.
Oh yeah.
And I was just about to move from London to Brighton. And it was a night where they were getting away from stand-up comedy, and they wanted sort of non-stand-up sort of comedy stuff.
Yeah.
And they asked me if I would do that routine in their show. And they said, don't worry, it's all people, groovy, creative, bright and artistic people, they'll love it. So I got there, and the place was full, and it wasn't like that at all. It was ordinary sort of people, ordinary people who go and drive a van for a living or whatever. And the lot of the acts were just like, there were people who sort of had the will to perform, but nothing to perform, And the evening was just dragging, and you could see that people were just pissed off, But because there were people going on, like wearing tutus and making loads of noise with a guitar or whatever, there was no sort of in to sort of get a heckle in. And then I went on in my suit, which I'd had made to measure to be too small by the same tailor who made Jack Dee and Lenny Henry and Harry Hill suits in Soho. Someone said to me at the time, you're spending all those hundreds of pounds on a suit made to measure, but to be made too small. They said, you take your madness seriously, don't you? I said, yeah. So I used to wear this comedy suit in those days. So I start doing a bit of stand-up, because I've got to do that before. And of course, as soon as someone's telling a joke and then there's a pause, they're heckling, and they've got really severe heckling, and it was like all the hatred and resentment of all the stuff they'd had before. Well, this is my version of events, was going on me. Wow. And I had my stooge in the audience ready to, who was doing an Edinburgh show that summer that was going to be produced by David Lavender, the artistic director of the Commedia, who was in the audience. And anyway, it was really, in fact, the magician Paul Zenon was there.
Right,
who was a good friend, and he actually almost got in a fight with someone, sort of telling him to shut up. So anyway, by the time I got to taking the clothes off, I was only supposed to do a few jokes just to sort of get into it. And by the time I'm in the leotard and tights, it's like, just absolute hatred.
It's carnage, isn't it?
And I thought, well, we'll get them back with the stooge bit.
Yeah.
But of course, it never happened because my friend had bottled. And he was
no
walking
way
the streets of Brighton wearing my Lycra leotard and tights under his clothes. So there was no...
Any minute now, he's going to...
I didn't even know,
Oh,
and and unfortunately, and I was just about to move to Brighton, and the Commedia is the obvious...
It was a big club for you, because you could have been doing that.
And that blew it, that wasn't my normal stand-up act.
No.
I don't even do the leotard and tights, the normal stand-up act. That's but the guy never got to see it,
Wow. That's like that moment in Touching the Void, where he cut the rope and you fell into the...
I haven't seen it. I'm just spend all my time driving up and down motorways to do shit gigs. I don't ever watch. If it's not on a street sign on the motorway, I won't have read it or seen it.
But you were like you were hung out to dry there though. So, but that's one of the things about being self-employed, isn't it? As a comedian, there's it's a wonderful job and career and very and quite playful in one sense.
The highs are higher and the lows are lower.
The lows are so low because sometimes that actually can be like the death of creativity as well when you actually think, hang on, I've got a commercial interest just to sort of play it safe with this club as well because I want to maybe for the audience I want to go but actually in the end, like clubs and venues want to sell drink and have people sit on the seats, and they want
they're competing.
No complaints. They're competing. So
and it was unfortunate because this wasn't even an ordinary comedy night. This was a sort of a cabaret night, So it wasn't even the sort of stand-up comedy night that they had. But this guy saw that and he wasn't able to take into account, the mitigating circumstances.
It's an interesting those when you take gigs that. Effective gig. I remember I was booking a football club, quite a well-known football club, and they got me to book a year's programming in, and then they said, but before the actual program of monthly contract starts, we want to do something for the players and the staff and it was a Christmas party, and it was like something like the 23rd of December or something like that, and all the players were there, all the staff, the cleaners, the groundsmen, all the families, balloons and all that, and then now the comedy club is really good. Right, I'll tell you, it's going on now. It's Specs Comedy Club at Luton, and but before the comedy club started, myself and two other actors, Delise Soshapond and Wes Zahra, did this. Essentially, it was a call brigade Christmas gig, and that was the first time the people that ran the club ever saw me perform. At what was it was just horrible, and it was and they lost confidence, not just in me, but in the idea of comedy. Now the comedy club's going great now, but there was a sense in which they were like, oh my goodness, because it was just so hard and the atmosphere never happened.
They don't think the circumstances are rubbish, they think the comedian's rubbish.
Totally. People don't take into account context, and they were just like, well, is this what it is? But literally, as soon as the first comedy club started, all sins were forgiven. Everything was perfect, and it was great. It's been a great club for quite a long time now. But I remember going, I wish I'd never taken that show. I wish I'd never done it and never agreed to it.
I was booked to do a New Year's Eve gig in a hotel in Lincolnshire, and I got there, it was just me, all these people in dicky bows and everything, and it was in a restaurant and there was no stage or even anywhere for me to stand. And what's more, there was nowhere that you could stand in the entire room that everyone could see you, because it was a sort of an irregularly shaped room, and they just said book a comedian for New Year's Eve or book a comedian. It hadn't occurred to them that a comedian actually needs a place where everyone can see him.
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't even occur to them. They just go, there's a comedian appearing somewhere, and they have no sense of show or showbiz or. And
I was literally, there was nowhere to stand. I mean, I had no space. I was standing sort of in front of a dumb waiter. And there were waitresses, getting cutlery out and stuff. And then they blame me, It's like hiring a scuba diver to go deep sea diving and giving him no diving equipment, and then when he drowns at 20 feet saying he was shit.
blaming them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That scuba diver was rubbish. He drowned.
Didn't get a single pearl.
Yeah. He'd only been in the water 5 minutes.
What a fraud. It's true, isn't it? Because you can go from, it's the crazy, you can go from high status to low status. Yeah. So, like quickly, never, it's that whole thing about, sometimes you can, like there's this gig I regularly compare, and it goes really well. And one of the punters there really likes me, likes myself, so booked me for the wedding. And I did it. And it was fun, and it went fun, but I always think never, almost kind of, if you're riding high with someone, don't put yourself in a situation that you can ruin it all. Got away with it, but it was a really hard way. Doing comedy at a wedding is just really difficult because, people want to listen to the best man. Nobody's there just for comedy. And I remember thinking again, going, what? It's probably quite a thing. I do take quite a lot of gigs I always regret. But I go, why did I take that? She was a fan.
I do a few of those, and I've learned the technique.
Oh, yeah.
The main thing is to make sure that the people who book you are happy with and find you funny, even if everyone else doesn't. Yeah. And make sure that you sort of keep it good and sweet with them.
Yes.
And as long as they send a good report back to the booker, you get another booking.
That's the word. It's true, isn't it? It's true. I also find getting...
As long as it doesn't get on YouTube. Then you're rumbled.
The cat's out of the bag. Because I also find getting them to introduce you on, because obviously they're out of the whole, in terms of authority, they the groom, the bride, or the best man have the authority. So if they say, got this very funny guy coming on now just to do a comedy set, people kind of...
Apart from the children running around playing tea.
Sliding in front of you on TV. Yeah, I love that. Oh, that's crazy.
And the waiters coming in with
sliding
with a wedding cake.
So we've had best memory, worst memory. Now, 30 years in the business, Dave. You've got a lot of energy, a lot of enthusiasm. We've been talking last night about you've got these great shows you're running out in Budapest, and so you've got a lot of motivation. What's your motivation to entertain? What's that thing that kind of gets you out of bed in the morning?
Well, the truth is, there could be another one, but it's overridden by the fact that I've got a wife and 2 children. Yes. And I've got a mortgage, and I need to bring in, 600 quid a week clear every week. You've got a base level. Yeah.
So up to that point, the motivation is not. There was kind of like, hey, I do this because I enjoy it and artistry and the desire to bring levity and laughter.
The love I didn't get when I was a kid and all that stuff.
Yes, all that. But now it's kind of cold, hard economics.
And I don't want to do anything else. I can't do IT. I'm no good at making custom kitchens, for rich friends or whatever. Yeah. And the whole point of my life is to not get my hands dirty, unless it's down the lady's knickers. Preferably the front. Yeah. That's a bit crude, sorry. But no, I mean, basically I've got to support the family, and I don't want to do other, some horrible job. I'd much rather be in a hotel room in Antwerp.
I mean, it's a beautiful hotel room.
Very nice, lovely breakfast. But before I had a wife and children, I suppose it was because I wanted to be on an artistic quest of being funny, making people laugh. Yeah. I mean, they say laughter is healing. What a great way to make a living. Yeah. Going around making rooms full of people laugh. I mean, I've been sort of standing in the back of a gig when they're watching another comic on the bill, when I've either done my bit or I'm waiting to do my bit. And I'd be standing there, and there are sometimes when the comedian's getting big laughs, a stranger will be standing there with his pint in his hand, and he'll sort of laugh and turn around and want to sort of share that. And you make eye contact with some great big bloke with tattoos, and it's like he's laughing and he's looking at you, and he's this is brilliant, And it's not just what there is; it's what there isn't. Yes. Because if people are laughing, they're not having hateful thoughts or wanting to kill, or fight. Or acquire,
because that's it. Psychologically, the theory is that laughter is built within us as it's a social communication tool. Because when whenever there's tension or an argument or whatever, or even like when I go see my Spanish relatives and we don't have a lot of language, but we have laughter and like a little smile, you know, and it is a very bonding thing, isn't it?
It is, yeah, it's beautiful.
So you're kind of curating bonding amongst not just you and the audience, but between them and each other. Yeah.
And Betty Shine, the medium, wrote in her book that if you go in a theatre when there's a comedian on stage and everyone's laughing, everyone's aura joins up. Ooh. I don't know whether that might be rubbish, I don't know, but that's what she said, was that everyone's aura connects when everyone's laughing.
If that's what Betty says, then that's what happens.
But there are two theories with laughter. I think one is that thing about it's a collective thing, and the other one is the opposite, which is it's an expelling thing. So if there were like monkeys, and then there's a monkey from another colony of monkeys, herd, whatever the word is, then they want to expel them and make them an outsider.
Oh, really?
So they do all the as a way of laughing at, you know, you're a stranger, you're from another place, go away, we don't want you.
Oh, okay.
Bit like playing a gig up north.
Before you've gone on, that's an interesting thing. So then how that would evolve is that we then, like, it's a shared commonality in something that we find different. You know, so something like if a comedian or we see something that's slightly out of the ordinary, or whether it's a pullback and reveal or something ridiculous, then we all go, that's something different to what we're living.
I mean, I suppose like many things, it's a paradox. Yeah. But I mean, I think the safest way to go as a comic is to be one of them. So the audience thinks that you're their spokesperson on the stage, and you're making observations that they would have made if they, you know, had thought about it.
Although your character's quite like, you come, you know, the character you have on stage is quite...
I go the hard route.
You go...
I go the different...
Respect, you're there the outside of the, you know, the kind of, you know, suit that you wouldn't normally get worn in public, the massive red handbag.
The weirdo who doesn't really quite know where he is.
Yes. So I suppose then you create a context where they can all laugh.
At the outside.
At the outside, So you're that other monkey then.
Yeah, I'm the odd one who didn't really fit in, which is what I've always been in many ways, you know, when I was at school and stuff.
Interesting. So, gone to that is very interesting. I'm just aware of time. So, on the final question, Dave, right? So you've got that £600 a week type economic motivation for
as at June 2015. That might go up with inflation. If anyone actually watches this in the future.
If you want to just track with the Nasdaq and when watching this, just do a little Google search, see where we're at. Because we might even be euros if they're watching in a couple of years.
Yeah, and see how the Hungarian economy goes, because I'm single-handedly supporting that. You know.
Well, you do, because your wife is Hungarian. Your children speak fluent Hungarian, and you also have like Hungarian in-laws and a nanny as well, and that kind of thing.
Well, we employ Hungarian people. Yeah.
Brilliant. So that's it's good. It's European. It's lovely. It's reaching out. And do you have a house out in Hungary? Do you
two flats next door to each other, available for rent if anyone's interested.
Again, we'll. I'll edit like a little, we'll have the website along the bottom and a little picture.
Yeah. Tinky Winky repeat fees.
Some motivation for life then. What's that thing that, you know, is, because it's interesting you mentioned, you know, part of the motivation for comedy before you mentioned there was a, you know, maybe that part of when you were younger being the outsider, but also thinking about that desire for not acceptance but love from a stranger, you know, with but in terms of life, that thing that really kind of, you know, gives you energy, gives you
love from a stranger. I thought you said we'd keep my personal life out of this.
I'll edit that bit. Yeah.
In the unmade bed.
We've just been having a lovely cuddle. But that thing that really kind of, you know, what would you say that driving force for you just in life?
In life? Well, I suppose if you commit suicide, you go to hell, or there's a risk you might. So that's a reason to keep going, isn't it? Do you need more?
That's yeah. Okay, so it's the
Well,
staving
greed.
off. Take your pick.
Yeah, greed, the wish to control other people, to bully vulnerable people I quite like.
That's beautiful.
Drugs, sex, alcohol.
Yeah.
Is there anything else?
No, I think that you covered all the bases. This is wonderfully inspirational stuff. It's like sitting down with Tony Robbins and Zig Ziglar. Eating. Waffles. So, yeah. So, money, greed, power.
Physical pleasure. Hatred.
Hatred, good. I'm glad it was all looking a bit too positive there, Dave.
Feeling bitter. Driving too fast.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Wow. Well, Dave, on that bombshell.
Actually, no, loving people. To love and to be loved.
To love and to be loved. That's from Moulin Rouge.
Is it?
Yeah.
I hated that film when I saw the Baz Luhrmann one. I thought it was awful.
That's the main one, the one with Nicole Kidman in.
Yeah. I've seen the original Moulin Rouge in Montmartre.
Oh, really?
That's very nice. I mean, that's just a building, you know.
Mm-hmm. But to love and be loved. So, and you would say your performance comes out of that as well, that sense of...
Yeah, I think it does. Although being nice isn't funny. You know, people don't want someone to be nice. They want someone to be funny.
Yeah.
And sometimes to be funny, you have to have a bit of an edge. But the trouble is judging that, because if you have too much of an edge, people go, "Oh, don't like him. He said something that I disagree with."
And then getting that right balance, because I think there's something that really feeds a comedian. They want to be loved, and therefore they really reach out to us. But being too needy can also...
It's not going to give it to you.
It's not going to give it. They withhold. Isn't
It's
it?
a relationship.
It's like a lover, beloved and lover, isn't it? You know, they want to be pursued and desired, but also don't want to be too. You know, you've almost got to hold your own gold a little bit.
Yeah. It's you know, when you go on stage, you have a relationship, and that audience is another being that you have a relationship with, and it's all the same rules apply. Yeah. And that's even in the language. You know, they talk about kill them, knock them dead. You know, he was a great comic. He killed the audience. Or he blew them away. Yeah. It's all sort of quite aggressive, sort of. It is, isn't it? That I totally smashed that, ripped the roof off. We killed them. We slayed the. All these terms, isn't it? Yeah. Which isn't a relational term. That's more about almost like a matador and a bull. Yeah, it's a survival thing, because you live or die on in that 20 minutes or half hour, however long it is, and. It's all a normal person's working day is 8 hours, but our 8 hour day is compressed into that concentrated time. It is, isn't it? And everything, our status, whether whether we earn money, it's all dependent on that. Our power, everything is dependent on that little bit of time. It sometimes seems ridiculous, doesn't it? That because we've come out to Belgium. I came down from Manchester from Manchester down to London, and got the train from London to Brussels. Then we got from Brussels out to Antwerp, and it was all for that concentrated moment. All that. And you could have just flown from Manchester to Antwerp; it would have been a lot easier. Just rubbing that in. Yeah, it was only when I got here the promoter was like, why don't you get a flight? I was like, I didn't book it, Nigel. That's the administrators. The administrators. I would have quite happily got a flight, but there we go. So any final thought? One of the things I thought was interesting with chatting over breakfast was, now you've changed in life in terms of as you've become more mature as a comedian, as a person, you get to gigs early, a couple of hours early, and that's kind of linked with your philosophy for life. Yeah. I've noticed that successful people tend to be early, and so in trying to be successful, I want to get away from the stress of being stuck in a traffic jam. I mean, I have done some of my best gigs after an 8 hour journey on the motorway, and then sort of running from the car onto the stage with a barrel full of poo, and doing half an hour, and all the adrenaline has made it a great gig. Yeah, because you're still running on it. Yeah. But it probably takes a few years off your life. So and actually
those people that turn up early and integrate the environment and maybe the town and read a little bit and do stuff.
Notice a couple of things to make comments about.
Long term, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Just turn up early.
I think I turned up once to some village. I was doing a gig in a village hall, and they had lots of the cottages had signs saying "No wind farm" or something. No to the wind farm.
Yeah.
And so, which I wouldn't have noticed if I'd only just turned up, driven into the car park and done the gig.
Yeah.
And I said on stage, lovely village, beautiful cottages, but one little criticism is I think you could use more imagination with the names of your cottages, because a hell of a lot seem to be called No Wind Farm. And
brilliant.
It got a big laugh.
Of course, yeah.
Not a great joke, but it's a sort of a personalised joke.
Yeah, and they go, thank you, you've made that effort.
I think the cleaner's knocking on the door.
Well,
unless it's opportunity.
Yeah.
But just to finish very quickly, about a year and a half later, I went back to that gig and did the same village hall.
Yeah.
And someone came up to me and said, I still remember that really brilliant joke you did about the too many cottages called No Wind Farm.
That's absolutely brilliant.
And it wasn't actually a great joke, but that's because of turning up early.
Yeah, that's the lesson. Dave Thompson, thank you so much.
Thank you, Tony. It's really great to meet you.
Cheers, man.
Yeah.